Hello, thanks for coming back. My name is Tish, and this is my channel. Um, Basically, just sharing my life with you. Hoping to take some of the bad things that have happened and turn it into something positive by being able to help other people maybe get through what they're going through, or maybe heal from things that they have gone through. So, welcome back. Anyway, so I was able to put in chronological order the different places that we lived. First would be that second-story apartment where the oral sex incident took place in that first video, the memory share 1. Second was the Nighttown Roadhouse. After that, we were at the John Street house, and then following that, it was Capitol Heights. So I think today we'll just concentrate on that second-story apartment and memories that I have from that apartment. I'm not entirely sure exactly what year we left California. It had to have been probably 80. I would imagine it was probably an 80. Yeah. So anyway, it's really weird because when you're young, our perspective of time seems to last so much longer than what it really is. And then as you get older, time just kind of flies by. So it's hard to really be able to, I don't know, regain that perspective, I guess, because it's coming from a different time. So, but my guess would be that we left California in 80. Just from the rest of the timeline, it was a whole lot easier to work backwards than it is to try to come from that time period forward. So, anyway, when we were living in that apartment, we did flea markets and things, but we also sat up in parking lots. There was a pool out on the side of a road that we also sat up at. And when I say sat up, it's like a yard sale on the side of the road, only it was all new things. He didn't really sell used things at that time. It was mostly new. So there'd be trips to like auctions and things to buy things. I remember a trip to New York. I'm not sure exactly when that trip took place. I just remember going to New York. And he would buy things in bulk. God, that's so weird because I know what that's called and I don't remember what it's called. Wholesale license. He has a wholesale license. Or he did. So anyway, so I don't have a whole lot of really vivid memories from this era. I think we were there for maybe a year. I do remember one time I had went down to the car to get something. I have no idea what I was getting. But I was going to pretend like I was driving. So I started up the car. Somehow managed to put the car in reverse, backed the car down a hill and into a trash can. Yeah, I just knew I was going to get the hell beat out of me for that one. But nope, I got a brand new bike instead. So, yeah, that's where the confusing part comes in. When I was talking about how if I did something where I should have gotten my ass beat, I would be rewarded. But if I did something where, really shouldn't have gotten in trouble for it, I really got in trouble. So that just went to reinforce that. I know that his girlfriend's son was taking my allowance and things like that, and I'd have to do his chores. He, of course, got credit for that and got paid for those chores. But I was the one doing those chores. Anytime he didn't want to do something, I had to do it. Whether that was going out to help at the flea markets and stuff. When he didn't want to, he'd get to stay home. I wouldn't. I'd have to go work. And you figure in 1980, I was 7 years old. 80, 81, I was 7, maybe 8 years old. I would have been 8 in February of 81. So, and then of course I had that closet. The closet was my bedroom. I know it used to get really cold in that closet. I remember that. I'm trying to think of some other thing. Oh, and then that was when I got spanked by the principal. Now, for any of the younger people that might be watching, yeah, our principals actually used to get to spank us. It was at the bus stop. Our bus stop was down by the dumpster that was pretty much right out in front of where our apartment was located. A kid was throwing rocks at me, and at first he was throwing them in a mud puddle next to me, and he was getting dirt on me. And then he had actually thrown some that if I hadn't have put my hand up, like I put my hand up like this, and it hit me right on the side of my hand over here. Anyway, it bruised my hand really bad. But if I hadn't have done that, he'd hit me right in the face with those rocks. So, of course, after he did that, what did I do? I picked up the rocks and threw them back. You know, and when we got to school, I don't know, I don't know if somebody at the bus stop told the principal about throwing rocks. I'm not sure exactly how the principal found out about it. But anyway, here I was, I couldn't even hardly use my hand because it hurt so bad. But thankfully I didn't get hit in the face with rocks. And anyway, I ended up getting spanked. I don't remember if he did or not, but I know I did. That's when they brought out that big old board with the holes drilled in it and put your hands on the desk, and you got a couple swats on the rear end. So that was the one and only time I ever got spanked at school, at least by the principal. I know my dad used to threaten to spank me at school all the time, but of course that never happened. Of course, his wouldn't have been considered a spanking. It would have been seen for what it was. So those are pretty much the only real stories I can actually remember from there. It really kind of boggles my mind that I don't have more specific memories, but I think my mind just kind of blocked a lot of it out, because that was a lot to carry. So from there we moved to Nighttown Road. This was out in the country, a lot of farmland, lots of cows. A neighbor that lived down the road used to have pigs, and so we'd go down and play in the pig pen. We used to love to do that. Anyway, he was a really nice guy. He used to give us popsicles all the time. And we'd get to ride our bikes and stuff. This was, when we first moved out there, it was pre-sibling, because of course it was still his girlfriend and his girlfriend's son. And I had told you about the teaspoon or tablespoon of salt already, and it was a tablespoon, not a teaspoon. And then he had actually shot me with a BB gun once in the back of my knee. And I don't know how many times he pumped that thing, but the BB stuck in the back of my knee. But it's, I've seen these movies where people are using people like they're animals, and so they send them out and they have them like run and they're hunting them. And that's kind of what it was like. He would make me run around, so I was like his moving target, and then he would shoot at me with his BB gun. And you talk about hurt. Yeah, that freaking thing hurt. That's the only time I remember him actually hitting me. Yeah, it freaking hurt. And it stuck. It didn't go in the skin, but it stuck. Like right in the back of my knee. So, and that was something that stuck out in my mind. And then of course him and his friend. But I don't remember his friend ever doing anything to me. He was just kind of cruel, as far as, name calling and just being mean. I know that the girlfriend's son was older than me. I want to say he was probably a teenager. And so when we moved to Nighttown, his figure is probably about 81, right around in that area. So, I would have been 8. Yeah, I would have been 8. So yeah, I was still a kid. And it's hard for me to think of myself as an 8-year-old because I don't ever really remember getting to be an actual kid. Like, I have 2 kids. My kids are grown now, but I remember when they were that little and they were babies. But I don't ever remember getting to be like that. I mean, even remembering being a kid, I don't remember actually being a kid. I got to play with dolls, and I had pet hamsters and things, and and I got to do stuff like that, but I don't remember ever actually getting to be a kid like my kids did. I insisted that they not grow up. Don't rush through your childhood. It's the shortest time in your life. Enjoy it while you can. Once it's gone, it's gone. You can't go back. But I don't, thinking back, I just don't remember ever getting to be that carefree kid who just got to enjoy childhood. Mine was all about working and having to be an adult before, while I was still in single-digit age. No, and it's still really confusing as to why the oral sex incident would have happened at the apartment, but then I have that vivid memory of waking up on the side of his bed in tears while he was messing with my chest. So that part to me is really confusing because I don't know why that would take place after the oral sex incident. As far as the grooming part, when that started, I didn't know that I was being groomed. I had no freaking clue. It wasn't until years later in therapy when they're talking about, well, did this ever happen? And I'm like, well, yeah, but he was just playing games and it was an accident. Well, no, it wasn't an accident. You're being groomed. So whenever he we'd we'd be wrestling around or he'd be tickling me or whatever and he'd accidentally touch me between the legs. Yeah, that's grooming. Or accidentally grab your chest, even if there's nothing there, that's still grooming. He's making it to where these touches are okay. It's an accident, therefore it was okay. He didn't mean to do it. So, but no, it was never an accident. It was intentional and it wasn't okay. And that's where the grooming came in. And I know that went on for a while because looking back, I remember that. I remember that I don't know, by the time things started happening, it was like the way that it progressed, it was almost natural. I mean, it wasn't natural at all, not even in the least little bit. But, I mean, it's like you could see it coming. I mean, and this is me as an adult looking back. This was not me as a child seeing this coming, because I had no freaking clue. I was a kid. But I don't know if, because I know that there were several times where he would want me to come in and spend the night with him. That way I would be more comfortable, or I wouldn't be afraid, or, it was always for my benefit. And I don't know if there was, maybe if his girlfriend went to visit her family because they lived in a different state. I don't know why they weren't there. Like, I, for the life of me, can't figure that part out. But it had to have been something along that lines because I know they weren't there. And I believe that night that I woke up on the side of his bed was probably the first incident where he was wanting me to sleep in his bed. And of course, you know what happened. I went back to my own bed and pissed him off. Well, he told me I could. So as a kid, kids are very literal. He told me I could go back to bed, therefore I believed that I could go back to bed. I didn't know that I was doing the wrong thing as far as he was concerned. I thought it was okay. Well, it really wasn't okay. He just gave me an option, even though that really wasn't an option. Here, of course, I have more memories just because I was a little bit older. Um, there was a the girlfriend's son had put fireworks in my room. I had a hanging hamper. Well, not really a hamper. It was like a bag that you hang. Like nowadays, there are more boxes that you hang, and you can put like your socks and underwear and things in it. It's like an organizer, save space where you don't need that drawer. Anyway, this was a bag, and I used to keep my socks, I think, in it. It's either socks or underwear or something. I did have a dresser, but I think that was more for like um, t-shirts and things like that. But anyway, my socks and things were in there, and I didn't even know the fireworks were in there. Like, one day I had went to get a pair of socks, and this freaking bag is filled with fireworks. And I'm like, I don't know where these fireworks came from, but I do know that if anybody finds them, I'm in trouble. So I didn't say anything, and I went on to school, and by the time I got home that day, everybody knew those fireworks were in there. My guess is that the son put them in there. I don't know why, other than to maybe get me in trouble. I'm not sure why that happened. Except for maybe he just didn't want to get caught with them. I don't know. Maybe he thought that they wouldn't check my room. They always check my room. So anyway, and I'm pretty sure that was the time that he used the bicycle lock. It wasn't the battery. I'm pretty sure that this was the time that he used the bicycle lock. So, and then she had stepped in and ended up getting her finger broke because she was afraid that he was going to kill me with that bicycle lock. So anyway, again, it wasn't like, it's like, these are the old bicycle locks. I don't even know if they have them anymore, but it's like a chain, and it's got like a plastic sheath over it. And then you use a padlock to lock this bicycle chain. So anyway, that's what I was getting hit with. I had bruises from the middle of my back down to probably the back of my knees. I mean, I had bruises all over. So, but anyway, so I wasn't allowed to go to school for a couple days because they were afraid somebody would see those bruises till they started fading a little bit, and then I was allowed to go back to school. Of course, I was the one with the fireworks. I don't know what story I made up as to why I had the fireworks or why I put them in there. I have no idea. I don't remember. I said whatever I had to say to make the beating stop. Of course, at first, I told the truth. They weren't my fireworks. I didn't put them in there. Don't even know where they came from. And in the end, I lied so that it would stop. Then I had already told you about the battery incident to the back door, and then it was the plastic ski and the guitar that was used, and then of course there's always a belt in there. And at first I told the truth that I didn't have anything to do with it, and then when I lied, said that I took it out and used it for something or lost it, I don't remember exactly what I said, then the beating stopped. Because he knew that I didn't have anything to do with that battery. But again, it's like he was doing all these things so that he could convince people of how much of a liar I was, so that if I ever did tell, nobody would believe me. I was a thief. I was a liar. I misbehaved. I wouldn't do anything that I was told. He just made me out to be a really bad kid, and I wasn't a bad kid. I would listen. I would do as I was told. I wasn't lying. I definitely wasn't stealing. But again, it was to create this image of me to protect him. But then it wasn't everybody else that he was convincing. He was convincing me. And I carried that self-image for, oh my God, let's see, I just started to, probably in the last 10 years or so, really started to get over that self-image or work through that self-image or to see myself in a more positive light. because I've always been extremely hard on myself. I still am, but I know I'm not the worthless person that he convinced everybody that I was, including myself. I mean, he did a damn good job. He really did a damn good job. Let's see. Other memories that I have from there. And I know that the sexual abuse started there. I know that it started there. And it's really weird that I have the way that the memories that I kept are the memories that are with me. It's really weird how that works, because you would think that I would have specific memories of him actually raping me, but I don't. It's not until I'm older that I have those. But I know it was going on because, like I said, her son was doing that too. There wasn't any actual penetration with him until that one time. But with that one time, that should have immediately told the son that there was something going on, with my dad, because obviously I didn't have boyfriends. I was too young, I mean, kids that age, nowadays might be different, but kids that age back in that day were not out having sex. It just didn't happen. It was a different time. Nowadays, hell, they have sex ed in freaking elementary school, which is absolutely insane. I think I was in middle school, and in health class they mentioned it, but it wasn't sex ed. But then I know it was definitely going on, because when they were talking about it, I really wanted to say something, but I was too scared. So, yeah. Anyway, and the van trip started then. So when I say van trips, and I know I kind of touched on it, but we would go to flea markets. We had it's the van that had those crude bunk beds in it, and I don't remember if that's one of the videos I deleted or not. But this was still pre-sibling, so those bunk beds weren't in it yet. But the front of the van, where the driver's seat and the passenger seat's located, was separated from the back of the van by not a gate, but it's almost like the work vans where they have that, the grate that goes across it, and then the back of it's completely open. And I want to say that he bought this van in an auction. More than likely, that's where he got it at. That's where he got the majority of stuff at. So, anyway, and it was a yellow van. He would pack it full of stuff. It'd be full of tables and then items and stuff that we would be selling. We would go to the flea market. One of them was like a racetrack, but you would have to sit outside the gate until the races were over. Then you could go in and set up and all that. Set up that night before, and that way you're there and set up for the next day, which was the best thing to do, because then you could just uncover it in the morning, and then you're open first thing in the morning when the people start coming through. So anyway, that's what we would do. So if the girlfriend and the son didn't go, then it would just be me and Dad. So after everything was unloaded from the van and set up, and the whole back of the van was empty, and he would make like a pallet so that we could sleep in the back of the van so that we would be ready to work the next day. So of course that's not what was happening. I'm sure we probably did get some sleep at some point, but he was doing things to me in the back of the van. Anytime we were alone like that and he had the opportunity, he definitely abused that opportunity. And it's weird because I know that things happened. I remember things happening. I just don't have those specific memories. And I don't know how to describe that. It's kind of like, okay, you know how like you can remember all kinds of things, but you can't remember what you had for breakfast yesterday, but you know you ate. It's kind of like that. It's like I know that these things happened, but I don't remember specifically what happened. So I can't tell you exactly what he did which time. And it happens so often that maybe they just all run together. I don't know. And me being so young, I think maybe my brain was just protecting me. I had to shut off. I had to go to a different place. I could not be there when this was going on. It's like it was just too much for me to deal with. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. And I don't remember the physical pain. I know that there was physical pain. I just don't remember it. And it happened a lot. So anyway, then we would work through the day. And we usually set up for the weekend. Usually it was Saturday and Sunday, which would mean that, we'd be there for 2 days. Then we'd pack up and go home, and I'd be back in school the next morning. So, yeah, I really didn't have time to play. During the week, I would get to play with my friends or whatever, after school. I remember I had a really awesome bus driver during this time. Don't remember their name, none of that. I just remember this bus driver really sticks out in my mind. Like, the bus driver actually cared about the kids. And that's pretty much all I remember. And then the neighbor down the road with the pigs. We used to get to go and play with the pigs. Then he also butchered those pigs. So on those days, I didn't go down there. He also had a pond out behind his house. Out in the woods there, we'd go and catch tadpoles. Me and some of the other kids. And again, that was back in the days where you came home, the street lights told you when you had to be back. So that's all pre-sibling. So then the day came when we went to get my siblings. So, and the girlfriend and the son were still in the picture at that time. And that's when he built those really crude bunk beds. And like I said, I can't remember if that was in the video, if that's one of the videos I deleted before it ever even got posted. Anyway, it was made out of plywood and 4x4s. I think it was 4x4s, might have been 2x4s, but I think it was 4x4s. Anyways, and there wasn't a whole lot of space. Of course, we were all pretty young, so we didn't need a whole lot of space. But at that time, I was probably 8, almost 9. Right around that age frame. So you can imagine how small I was, and I couldn't, to lay on my side, my shoulders would be touching the top and the bottom. That's how tight the quarters were. So, of course, my youngest sibling was on the bottom. Then it would have been the middle sibling, and then me, and then the girlfriend's son on top. The top one was actually open, so it would be the top of the bunk beds and then the roof of the van. That one had the most room, which made sense because he was the older one. Because I want to say he was a teenager. I'm fairly certain of that. I don't remember exactly how old he was, but he had a few years on me. Um, so, and then during the trip, of course, me and my middle sibling would switch place because, Dad wanted to be able to talk and spend time with her, talk and spend time with that sibling. And with my youngest sibling, he was still trying to say that that sibling wasn't his, which was absolute BS. Complete BS. Anyway, so on that very bottom bunk, because, there's stuff in the van also. So it would have almost been like being entombed on that bottom bunk. And the only actual airspace, I guess, would have been against that grate between the front of the van and the back of the van, or right up against the side doors that opened up at the head of the, well, it depends upon which way you crawled into them, I guess, at the head or the foot of the bunk beds. So, and I always felt so bad, because that had to have been absolutely horrible being down there. I'd start feeling claustrophobic just thinking about that. Just awful. Excuse me. Anyway, that was a super long trip, because you figure you're going on the way back from Arizona to West Virginia. It's a really long trip. And then, of course, those bunk beds were used after that as well. But thankfully, the trips weren't nearly that long. So I know me and my middle sibling shared a room, and my youngest sibling had a room that was the storage room. That's where all the junk got put. It's crazy. Tell my story, and I get a little choked up at times, but then to even talk about my siblings, or later on to talk about my kids or whatever, that's what hurts. I always just felt so bad for my youngest one, for my youngest sibling, because he just never had a chance. So anyway, so from what we're figuring, it was like, I want to say it was like 81, 82 when they came out. Like the end of 81. So I would have been 8.5, almost 9. Almost 9, right? Almost 9. I remember for my 10th birthday, we got to go to the movies. And I can't remember if it was E.T. or Footloose that came out that year. And then on my 12th birthday, we got to go see the other one. I remember those two movies, because I was so psyched to see those two movies. But yeah, I actually seen both of those movies at the movie theater when they came out. The original Footloose, not the new one. I don't care for the new one. Kevin Bacon version was the best. Like, there's no comparison. I mean, I absolutely love that movie. And Kenny Loggins, and is that the one that Kenny Loggins played in? No, Kenny Loggins was Over the Top, I think. Anyway, whatever. It has nothing to do with this. Sorry, getting sidetracked. And I'm trying to think of specific things that happened, like right after they came out. And I was so afraid that things would happen to them that was happening to me. Well, my youngest one definitely went through the physical pretty immediately. I mean, Dad was swearing up and down that wasn't even his kid, so he didn't really spare the rod, that's for sure. And then we got to ride the bus together. Of course, my youngest one wasn't in school yet. And we got to ride the bus together to school, and then we used to go down and to the butcher's house with the pigs. Not when he was butchering, but he'd give us popsicles, and then we'd go catch the tadpoles. And then our neighbor had a dog, and the dog had knocked me over a lawnmower, and I had cut my knee, and then I had gotten pushed down the basement steps, and I can't remember. I want to say, I don't know if it was Dad or that did that. Anyway, then it got ripped open further. So my dad had actually told them that they had to pay because their dog bit me. Now, mind you, I was not taken to the hospital. It was not stitched. I have one hell of a scar on my knee. And that's just one of the things that he would do. I mean, anytime he could take advantage of a situation, he did. It didn't really matter whose expense it was, he would take advantage. I remember one year it had snowed, like major blizzard, and we were building igloos out in the front yard, and we had actually tunneled through the snow. It was so cool. Like, it was from the front door, and you could tunnel all the way down the yard, and we had a pretty long front yard, so you could tunnel like all the way down and around in the yard. And then we would use a cardboard box, and we were packing snow in this cardboard box, and then you'd flip it upside down and it would come out in a block of ice or a block of snow, and then we stacked it on top of each other, and we had like an igloo thing going. It was really cool. I remember that. And I had a pet hamster and some pet mice, and I, for whatever reason, thought they needed a bath, so I stuck them in the tub. All my mice climbed up top of my hamster and almost drowned my hamster. And at one point I had 2 hamsters, but my one hamster killed my other hamster. And then my mice got out, and a bunch of them got killed because, we stepped on them, didn't know that we stepped on them. They were like in the bedding that was hanging on the floor and got stepped on. I know that we had a dog. Oh, this poor dog. And I think maybe this is why I don't really let myself get emotionally attached to dogs. I don't have anything against dogs. I prefer cats. Cats are more independent, so they don't need you as much. But we had this poor dog. I can't remember the poor dog's name. That's Willow. Willow! No, stop! She's so bossy. Anyway, and I don't even know that my memory is 100% correct on the dog, but I want to say it was like a grayish schnauzer looking type dog, but the dog was a mixed breed. It wasn't like purebred, nothing like that. Anyway, this poor dog, and it may have been the same year that we had that horrible blizzard, because we were out of school for weeks. But anyway, this poor dog, we were not allowed to bring him in the house. He had this horrible little doghouse, wooden doghouse, no insulation, no freaking heat lamp, no nothing. Just this horrible little doghouse. And so and he was chained to a damn tree. And we weren't allowed to bring him in the house. And it was so freaking cold. I mean, we're talking West Virginia in the wintertime, and it gets really cold. That damn cat. Anyway, the poor dog froze to death. It was awful. I don't remember having any dogs after that. I mean, not at that place. Later on, I think we did, but not there. We ended up with like 21 cats at one time. We had 3 cats that got pregnant, all 3 of them. Each of them delivered 6 kittens. So we ended up with 21 cats. And I don't even know what happened to them. Boy, it takes a lot out of you. So I guess it was, I don't know, maybe a year and a half or so after my siblings came out or moved out, where the girlfriend and the son left. I know somewhere in there we had actually made a trip to her family's, because I remember going out there and we had spent the night. And the one thing I remember about this damn trip is they actually gave me coffee. Now, I don't like coffee. I've never liked coffee. I don't drink coffee. The only time I would drink coffee is if I'm driving and really tired. And then it is 90% creamer. Well, let's say 80% creamer, 15% sugar, and 5% coffee. You know, just for the coloring. I do not drink coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker. Don't like the taste of it. Anyway, they gave me coffee. Black coffee. Okay. So, okay, even if they left like 18 months after my siblings came out, that would only make me 10. And we went before my siblings came out. They gave a small child coffee. And that's the one thing that sticks out in my mind about that whole freaking trip. That's it. So that's why I say the brain is so crazy. Like, it will do things to protect you. And it lets you, it gives you bits and pieces. I guess it's like, this is what I think you can handle, so this is what I'm going to let you have. And then it keeps the rest of it. Or, you know, I think the incident, the whole oral sex incident was so traumatic for me. But I think the most traumatic part of it was not so much the incident itself, because I really didn't understand what was going on, but it was the fact that he brought up my mom. You know, why would you do that? I mean, and even though, you know, we've had our differences and we've had a really hard time in our relationship over the last, you know, might as well say 50 years. I'm sure it hasn't been the entire 50 years, but, I mean, why would you do that? I love my mom. She's my mother. I mean, regardless, she's my mom. But why would you bring her up? I mean, is it just that it's that small detail? Is that why it stayed? I mean, I don't know. Or was it the fact that I was just so uncomfortable? But that can't be it, because I was uncomfortable through all of it. So why don't I remember all of it? I don't know. Just different questions. And I'm sure that, you know, anybody who's been through it has those same questions. Is why do I remember this and not that? Or, you know, why can't I remember it more clearly? Or maybe I don't want to remember it more clearly. Anyway, it's difficult. So there's so much unknown. I think it's the unknown that haunts you, because you're constantly trying to put those pieces together. Whew. But anyway, at least today it's, you know, in the same time frame and not all over the place. So I don't remember any other things that are really standing out for this particular place that we lived. Well, yeah, actually there are. But up until when the girlfriend and the son left, I think we've pretty much covered that. So in the next video, I will get to introduce you to my soon-to-be horribly evil stepmother. She was such a treat. So we put her and my dad together in OMG, and my life was wonderful. But we will get to that on the next video. I am off the next 3 days. My youngest son goes in for his driver's license today. He could have had it like 5 years ago, but just wasn't interested in driving. So, fingers crossed that he does well today. So thankfully I have that to look forward to today. Keep my mind occupied. Anyway, I wish you guys all a great day. Stay safe. I mean, it's crazy out there. Well, I hope that you're doing well. I hope if you're dealing with things like this, you're going through it, you've been through it, I hope that you are safe. And if you aren't, I hope that you're able to get safe. To find a safe place. I would definitely keep praying for you. Please keep me in your prayers. God bless, and I will talk to you again soon.